In her penthouse apartment overlooking Boston's glittering nightscape, Olivia Parker sat in silence, a framed photograph resting delicately in her hands. It was one she had looked at countless times before, a picture of her with her grandmother, Margaret, taken at Thanksgiving the year before. The memory was frozen forever in that photograph. The two of them seated on the terrace of the Boston Harbor Hotel, the Atlantic Ocean stretching endlessly behind them, their laughter mingling with the scent of seafood bisque carried by the autumn breeze. Her grandmother's smile in that photo was radiant, genuine, untouched by the shadows of betrayal or ambition. It was the smile of a woman who had once built an empire from her kitchen table, the founder of O. Wilson's, a restaurant chain that now spanned more than 50 locations across the country. Margaret Parker had transformed herself from a quiet housewife into a business powerhouse. Her story had always been Olivia's compass, a reminder that it was possible to shape one's destiny despite opposition. But tonight, in the stillness of her luxurious home, that smile carried a weight Olivia could no longer ignore. She set the photo on the glass coffee table and reached for a deep pour of Cabernet Sauvignon. The rich crimson swirled in her crystal glass as she sank into the soft embrace of her Italian leather sofa. She slipped off her Manolo Blahnik heels, her tired feet sighing with relief. Another 12-hour day of meetings on Wall Street had drained her. Yet it wasn't work that kept her awake, it was memory, regret, and the echo of words left unfinished. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of her Back Bay penthouse, the city sprawled before her like a field of scattered jewels. The Charles River glistened faintly under the moonlight, winding its silver ribbon through Boston. Autumn's chill pressed against the glass, and Olivia wrapped herself in a throe, staring at her own faint reflection, an accomplished investment advisor, a woman in control, yet one burdened by invisible chains. 3 years ago, her world had shattered. Her marriage to a celebrated neurosurgeon at Mass General ended in divorce, an act her parents had declared unforgivable. To them, it wasn't her happiness that mattered, but appearances. Divorce is absolutely out of the question. Her mother, Catherine, had snapped, her voice as sharp as the gold pin fastening her Hermes scarf. Her father, William, had merely rustled his newspaper in the Grand Beacon Hill parlor, saying nothing, but his silence spoke of judgment as cruel as any word. Her grandmother had been the only one to stand by her. "It's your life, Olivia. You don't need to live for anyone else. I built my business against every voice that told me I couldn't." Those words had been her shield against the cold disdain of her family. Even as her parents withdrew, Margaret never wavered. Monthly calls, handwritten letters on cream-colored stationery, and quiet lunches in the public garden had kept Olivia tethered to something warm, something true. The letters in particular, her grandmother's looping script, her words filled with love and encouragement, had been Olivia's lifeline. But their last meeting, just 2 months ago, had been different. They had met near Boston Common, leaves curling amber and gold on the trees, and Olivia had noticed how her grandmother's usual sparkle had dimmed, clutching her Burberry trench coat against the wind. Margaret had lowered her voice. "There's something troubling me about my company, about your father." At the time, Olivia had dismissed it as worry. Now, the weight of those half-spoken words haunted her. Her relationship with her parents had since withered into silence. Catherine fluttered from charity gala to charity gala, her photographs filling the society pages. William immersed himself in his real estate empire, his name whispered in boardrooms but never in Olivia's world. Her sister Ashley, loyal to their parents, maintained only surface-level pleasantries, sending the occasional email full of stiff politeness. Her grandmother had been the only bond that mattered, and now, that bond was gone. It was a bright afternoon when Olivia's world tilted again. She had been at her office on State Street, reviewing an investment analysis report over lunch, when her phone screen lit with an Instagram notification. Absent-mindedly, she tapped it open and froze. Her sister Ashley had posted a photograph. Black-clad mourners stood within the grand walls of Trinity Church. The caption read simply, "In loving memory of our beloved grandmother, Margaret." The words blurred. Olivia's stomach hollowed, her breath catching. The post was 2 days old. They had buried her grandmother without a word to her. She called her mother, her hands trembling so badly she nearly dropped the phone. Catherine answered after 3 rings, her tone as frosty as marble. "What is it, Olivia?" "Mom, why didn't you tell me about grandmother?" There was silence on the other end, followed by words that sliced through her like glass. "You're no longer family. There was no need to inform you. But, grandmother, stop contacting us. Don't try to return to our world." The line went dead. The office around her seemed to dissolve. She dropped her Mont Blanc pen to the carpet and stared blankly at the city skyline outside. Sarah Johnson, a colleague, approached with concern, but Olivia couldn't hear her. She could only see her grandmother's face, that unfinished conversation by the common replaying endlessly in her mind. That evening, she returned to her Back Bay penthouse in a haze. George, the doorman, intercepted her with a solemn expression. "Miss Parker, a delivery arrived for you, a white envelope from Thompson Associates." Inside, Olivia found 2 letters. One was from the law firm. The other, written in her grandmother's familiar hand, was addressed to her. "My dear Olivia?" The words leapt from the page, warm yet heavy. "If this letter has reached you, then I am gone. I know your parents will not have told you, and for that, I am sorry. But this, my dear, was part of the plan." Olivia's breath caught. The letter continued, outlining betrayal, William's betrayal. He had tried to force Margaret out of her own company, bribing board members to strip her of power, but Margaret had fought back. She had left evidence and instructions, and most shocking of all, she had transferred the majority of O. Wilson's shares into Olivia's name. The law firm's letter confirmed it. The transfer had been executed just a week before Margaret's death. Olivia Parker was now the primary shareholder of O. Wilson's. James Thompson, the senior partner, confirmed everything when she called. "Your grandmother believed in you, Miss Parker." She prepared meticulously. "The funeral will be held tomorrow at Mount Auburn Cemetery. She wanted you there." That night, Olivia read her grandmother's letter again and again, her hands trembling as tears blurred her vision. Then she rose, opened her wardrobe, and pulled out her mourning attire. It was a Chanel dress, elegant and severe, the one her grandmother had once complimented with the words, "You look like a woman ready to own the world." Tomorrow, Olivia thought, she would face her family again, but this time, she would not arrive as the discarded daughter, she would arrive as the heir. It was the last gift her grandmother had given her, last Christmas. Wrapped in silver paper and tied with a velvet ribbon, inside had been a simple fountain pen, engraved with her initials. "Every leader must sign her own destiny," Margaret had said with a twinkle in her eye. Olivia carried that pen with her still, tucked into her bag as if it were a talisman. The following morning, Olivia sat behind the wheel of her Tesla as it glided silently along the tree-lined roads of Cambridge. The early autumn fog rolled low across the Charles River, veiling the city in a hushed melancholy. By the time she reached Mount Auburn Cemetery, the fog had thickened, curling like smoke around the chapel spire. She parked near the entrance, her hands lingering on the steering wheel as if reluctant to let go. Through the mist, she could make out the silhouettes of mourners gathering, black coats, veils, and solemn hats. Familiar faces emerge, her parents, stiff and impeccable, Ashley, nervously smoothing the hem of her dress, board members and longtime employees who had once greeted her with warmth when she visited Wilson's as a girl. The moment Olivia stepped out, heads turned, conversations faltered, whispers stirred the morning air. She walked forward in her tailored Chanel morning dress, her heels striking the damp stone path. Her parents' faces drained of color, William's jaw clenched, Catherine's hand tightening on her clutch. Ashley's gaze was conflicted, guilt shadowing her eyes. But Olivia did not falter. Every step forward was a step toward her grandmother's memory, and toward the truth. Inside the chapel, the stained glass windows threw beams of muted color across the polished pews. Candles flickered in tall silver holders. The air smelled faintly of lilies, solemn and sweet. Olivia walked toward the front row, the space traditionally reserved for family. The murmurs grew louder, tension rippling through the crowd. "Stop." William Parker suddenly rose, blocking her path. His tall frame loomed, his voice cold and commanding. "You have no place here." Before Olivia could speak, James Thompson, the senior partner from Thompson Associates, appeared at her side. His voice, calm yet firm, carried through the chapel. "Mr. Parker, you have no authority to deny your daughter's presence." William's face flushed crimson, I am the head of this family. All decisions here are mine. Thompson's reply was unyielding. Not anymore. As executor of Margaret Wilson's will, I must make a formal announcement. A ripple of unease spread through the mourners. Catherine's carefully coiffed hair seemed to lose its perfection as she shook her head. Ashley's lips parted as though to speak, then closed again. Employees shifted in their seats, waiting. Thompson continued, his voice echoing in the vaulted space. Margaret Wilson lawfully transferred her controlling shares, assets, and management rights of Wilson's to her granddaughter, Olivia Parker, 1 week before her passing. Catherine gasped. That's impossible. Mother promised, she told us. Your mother saw through everything. Thompson interrupted gently but firmly. She uncovered William Parker's illegal attempts to acquire company shares, his bribery of board members, and his plan to force her retirement by declaring her mentally unfit. She left evidence of it all. A stunned silence followed. Several board members exchanged guilty looks, their hands fidgeting in their laps. Thompson held up a sealed envelope. This is Margaret Wilson's final letter, addressed to her family. At her request, Olivia will read it aloud. Olivia's throat tightened as she stepped forward. She unfolded the letter, the familiar cream-colored stationery trembling slightly in her hands. When she began, her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the chapel. To my beloved family. Now that I have left this world, the truth must be told. 30 years ago, I lost my husband and raised Wilson's with nothing but determination and faith. This company is not merely a chain of restaurants, it is a livelihood for over 3,000 families. But William, my son, you sought to twist it for your own gain. You attempted to cover your real estate failures with company assets. And Catherine, you stood beside him to protect appearances. Yet, I still believe in hope. Olivia has the honesty and strength to carry forward our legacy. Ashley, I know your talents too. I pray you will find the courage to walk beside your sister. William, Catherine, this is not vengeance. It is protection. Protection of our family's pride, of our employees' futures, of all we built together. And Olivia, my dearest granddaughter, I entrust everything to you. Lead with courage, conviction, and compassion. With all my love. Margaret Wilson. When Olivia finished, the chapel fell into profound silence. A few employees quietly wept, dabbing their eyes with handkerchiefs. Ashley pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. Then William exploded, his voice cracking with rage. This will is invalid. I have lawyers who will. A sharp voice cut across his protest. Mr. William Parker. All heads turned. A man in a dark suit entered from the back, holding up an FBI badge. You are under arrest for securities fraud, bribery, and corporate embezzlement. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed louder than Catherine's scream. Gasps filled the chapel. William struggled, shouting, but 2 agents held him firm. Catherine clutched her pearls, her face twisted with shock. Ashley stood frozen for a moment before turning to Olivia, her voice breaking. I didn't know the whole truth, but I saw numbers in the books that didn't add up. I should have asked questions. Olivia reached for her, pulling her sister into an embrace. We can start again, Ashley, together. From the back, a shaky voice rose. Miss Olivia. It was Rose Martinez, the 78-year-old server who had worked at Wilson's since the very first restaurant. She stood, her frail hands clasped together. Margaret always said Wilson's greatest treasure was its people. We'll follow you, Olivia. Applause began slowly, then grew as employees, chefs, managers, servers, rose to their feet. Their clapping filled the chapel, a chorus of support rising above the grief. Olivia looked to the altar, where her grandmother's portrait watched over them, that familiar smile captured forever. For the first time in years, Olivia felt her heart steady. Her grandmother's voice seemed to whisper in the silence, well done. The funeral continued, but its tone had shifted. It was not only a farewell, it was the passing of a torch. At dusk, when the mourners were gone and the fog had thinned, Olivia knelt before her grandmother's grave. She laid a single white lily on the stone and whispered, I promise, grandmother, I'll protect everything you built. I'll make sure Wilson's thrives, and your name shines brighter than ever. The wind rustled the trees, and Olivia rose. Tomorrow, there would be boardroom battles, legal fights, and rebuilding to do. But tonight, For the first time in years, she felt her path was clear. This was not an ending. It was the beginning of a new era.